Let's see. Oh, what's your favorite beer? My favorite beer. I do have a case of Corona Light in the basement right now, but that's for obvious reasons now. Coors Light is what I normally drink. I'll tell you this. I've moved away from beer. I think it's a sign you're getting old when beer just doesn't work with your digestive system the way that you want it to. And it doesn't. So I do less beer these days. I'm a gin guy. Gin is my poison of choice for sure. Gin and soda. Yeah, it's good. But now that I'm getting older, I got to get up early for Fox and Friends. I put this much soda in and this much gin in. So I'm not really drinking all that much, although I may have many glasses.
That's the guy that shared classified war plans with a journalist that he later called a bunch of names in hopes of skirting his responsibility. He's also the same guy that said this just a week before.
Under the previous administration, we looked like fools. Not anymore. President Trump has reestablished American leadership.
It's crazy that empty bluster results in embarrassingly dangerous results. But, I mean, you almost can't blame him. He's the product of minimal work and intelligence that was rewarded with an extreme amount of unearned success. He doesn't know how to do shit because he's never had to do shit. Then he gets patted on the head by these enablers.
You're talking about a deceitful and highly discredited so-called journalist who's made a profession of peddling hoaxes time and time again, to include the hoaxes of Russia, or the fine people on both sides hoax, or suckers and losers hoax. So this is the guy that peddles in garbage.
Well, I thought what the Secretary of Defense just said, Laura, was an outstanding statement. And listen, I mean, we don't know how much of this is accurate or not, but it looks like even if everything the Atlantic reported is true, it's the president's advisors discussing among themselves options they might recommend to the president. And nobody can deny the success of what the president is doing here, which is what Pete Hegseth just underscored. And this is what the leftist media is reduced to. They can't argue with the policies, which the American people support. They can't argue with this new demonstration of American strength that is keeping Americans safe at home and abroad. And so now we're griping about who's on a text message and who's not. I mean, come on.
What you did see, though, I think, was top level officials doing their job, doing it well, and executing on a plan with precision. That mission was a success. No one was jeopardized because of it. We're grateful for that, but they will certainly, I'm sure, make sure that doesn't happen.
Minority Leader Schumer has called for an investigation into how this could have happened. Would you support one?
Well, listen, it doesn't surprise me that Chuck Schumer's immediate response is engage in political attacks. That's apparently all the Democrats are about today is political attacks. And Schumer has a real incentive to do that because his left flank, he's got AOC threatening to primary him right now, and he's worried about his left flank. President Trump is being vigorous going after the Houthis in his direction. And actually, I read through that the whole Jeffrey Goldberg article. His direction, the president's direction, was open up these shipping lanes. That's good for America. And it raises a natural question. Why didn't Joe Biden and the Democrats do that over the 4 years they were in office?
You were obviously fiercely critical of Hillary Clinton and her handling of classified information on a private email server, calling it grossly negligent. If we were on your podcast, The Verdict with Ted Cruz, would you call this grossly negligent?
Well, listen, it was clearly a screw-up. It was obvious that including Jeffrey Goldberg was inadvertent, and that was a mess. And an embarrassing mess. But I will say there's a big difference in that immediately the Trump White House took responsibility. They said this was genuine. This was a real exchange.
Nobody was texting war plans. And that's all I have to say about that.
Right,
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You never have to be competent when people in positions of power will always excuse you when your incompetence fails others. When your objectives of doing nothing while receiving everything and calling yourself a superior human is relatable to their success story. The propaganda doesn't work without loyal media willing to peddle the same excuses.
Did you ever try to start a group text? You're adding people and you accidentally add the wrong person. All of a sudden, your Aunt Mary knows all your raunchy plans for the bachelor party. Well, that kind of happened today with the Trump administration. Mike Waltz was putting together a group chat on Signal, an encrypted app, with the Secretary of Defense, the VP, and a bunch of other national security officials to collaborate on whether to strike Iranian proxies in Yemen who keep firing missiles and shutting down shipping. Well, National Security Advisor Mike Waltz accidentally added a reporter to the group text, and not a good reporter. Jeffrey Goldberg from The Atlantic, one of the biggest hoax artists around. Well, he heard some things he probably shouldn't have, but could have been a wee bit of a security breach. But it's not like they homebrewed a server and then bleached it or kept classified documents in their garages next to their Corvette, I'm sure it won't happen again.
You know, the left all afternoon was going crazy about this is another example of compromising national security with classified information. Of course, forgetting Joe Biden's holding documents near his Corvette and being given special treatment and how we could go recover those. So none of that's mentioned.
The detail I'm wondering about is the Jeffrey Goldberg detail about war plans. He says there were operational details, but he did not want to share them because it would be compromising. I don't trust Jeffrey Goldberg. The last time I sat on the couch with you guys, he had the ridiculous story about Vanessa Guillen. He had the suckers and losers. He is not a credible reporter.
The bigger takeaway for me is it's an insight, a transparent insight into the thought process and dialogue of our national leaders. If you look at the actual content of what was reported, if you look at how they discuss potential strikes on Houthis in Yemen, what you will see is dialogue between Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, Stephen Miller, Tulsi Gabbard, and many more in a very collaborative, open, honest, team-based attempt to come to the right decision after years of secrecy and incompetence. If you read the content of these messages, I think you'll come away proud that these are the leaders making these decisions in America.
As it relates to government officials using Signal, they all use it. They're not supposed to, but they use it.
But not for top secret stuff.
They use it. CIA, every single intelligence agency uses Signal. I know that for a fact. I talk to them on Signal. They're sources of mine. They all use Signal. It is the best way and the most secure way to get information out. And that's why a lot of journalists use it as well. They don't want it, they're not supposed to do it, but they do it anyway.
They are obsessed with an accidentally leaked text, a chain from Trump cabinet officials who are debating the merits of military strikes in Yemen. So the very people that covered up their president's severe cognitive decline, lied about wide open borders, both of which are clear and present dangers to our country, now want you to believe that they actually give a damn and care about national security. More feigned, phony outrage. This is now the scandal of the week that you will see nonstop, 24/7, that nobody will care about. Now, by the way, it's not only a smear, but it's waged by the left. That's all they've got, and their bingo cards. And don't forget the Democrats' dishonest claims about when you hear that Donald Trump.
When I'm reading in Politico that Mike Waltz is in trouble, and I think that there's not a chance in heck. The thing that gets you in trouble with President Trump is disloyalty and duplicity, not mistakes.
Yo, this is amazing. The spin is out of control with these guys. So now revealing highly classified war plans is just like texting your Aunt Lisa about your bachelor party. Or it's a sign of the refreshing transparency of this administration, willing to chat about all this where many people can access it. Oh, and don't forget that anyone that exposes the fools for who they are automatically dishonest journalists that have a vendetta out against this president. But the worst take was Brian Kilmeade admitting that the only way to get fired in Trump world is to lose favor over your disloyalty to the king. Not from putting American service members at risk over your decision to text classified information and send it to reporters that you then call deceitful. That's not the flex that you think it is. Actually what's refreshing is a dose of reality about this situation that's always clouded by this MAGA party's onslaught of anger, distractions, lies, and blame.
Well, it goes to the nature of the information, right? Is it secure enough, or did it reach the level of classification that it couldn't have been shared? I don't know the answer.
This wasn't a fun group chat to decide what we're going to order Sweetgreen for lunch. This is human lives on the line that was happening imminently. I don't care if you mixed up the trade representative's initials with a reporter. The reality is that if you had added someone who wasn't a responsible journalist, they could have leaked that immediately to the wrong sources, and American lives could have been lost. That is what we are missing here. So if there is not consequences for this, what does that say about how we uphold our values as Americans? What does that say to our foreign adversaries that people can be that reckless and get away with it? What does it say to the millions of people who are putting their lives on the line every day for this country that their leader is being so reckless?